Well, Corey, is it that time of the week?
It is. It is time for Lore Corner with Josh Finney.
Thank you. All right.
I've been listening to a lot of Hotspot on Giant Bomb, and like the way that Jeff Gerstmann intros the show is just kind of like, it's funny. I was trying to do that, but I failed miserably. So continue.
No, so last week, we covered the Osnium Court last week. Talked about sword logic. Talked about the origins of the court and how Oryx, Savathun, and Xivu Arath came to be. We ended with Oryx declaring himself Oryx, obviously, with Oryx taking the name Oryx and becoming a Taken King. This week, we're going to talk about. We're going to go into some detail. We actually don't know. She is one of the big bads of the entire franchise. Honestly, a little bit scarier at this point than Oryx ever was, because Oryx was name-dropped and defeated within, 9 months. That dude was here and gone. Savathun, on the other hand, we've been hearing about since, or Sathona, as we knew her when she was first introduced. We've known about her since the events of the Taken King, since the Books of Sorrow. And they've kind of slowly built her story up, and it's really hit a crescendo in the last year and a half or so, really since the Curse of the Dreaming City started. So most of what we know about Savathun right now is actually in-game. It's recent events. We know that she had a plan to get rid of the tribute system that her and her siblings had installed. She basically wanted to seize the power for herself. Instead of paying tribute to a worm god, she wanted to find a way to create infinite power for herself, in a violation, in a way, of the sword logic. She wanted to bypass that and just take all the power for herself, not have it go to subordinates or anything. She wanted it all for herself. Savathun desires to be the most powerful being in the universe, essentially. She hates the Traveler. She hates the light. The reason why she's popping up this season is chasing the pyramids is she wants to prove that she is worthy of wielding the darkness, that it should not go to the Guardians who already have the light. Why should they get to wield the light and the dark? We should be the chosen. Very much the same arrogance that Aramis has, but Savathun is very cunning. Eris makes note of this in one of the new strikes on Io, where she says Savathun is gathering all of her strength. She will not be as foolish as Oryx was. She cautions Zavala against this. And Zavala still doesn't quite get it. Zavala doesn't understand. Even when Eris explains it to him in one of the cutscenes at the beginning of the season, he doesn't understand the danger and the threat of Savathun. Really, only Eris and the Drifter seem to grasp this.
What was the line that Eris dropped about it? That we'll know what her plan is when she starts it.
Basically, nobody can predict her moves. She is basically she's the witch queen. She is a goddess of trickery, essentially. If Oryx was a god of war, she is a god of trickery. And her cunning, her deceit, those were the traits that were amplified when she took on the form of Savathun from Sathona. As her and her siblings began to commit war, began to kill each other, her and Xivu Arath concocted this plan to try and kill Oryx and take his tablets from him, the power that gives him the ability to take. They concocted a plan to take those and take the Taken for themselves, to rule the Hive and the Taken both. So they tricked Crota into allowing Quiria, the Vex Mind, into Oryx's throne world, into the Ascendant Realm, and Oryx managed to take Quiria, and it's the first time that a Vex had ever been taken. And then he, in turn, tried to send Quiria into Savathun's throne world to kill her. That did not work. She, in turn, teaches this Taken Vex Mind how to harness Hive magic and how to conduct Hive rituals. And she convinces this mind not to go back to Oryx, to work for her, and they create this singularity, which was a way for Savathun to understand and start taking all the power for herself. she starts these ramblings. Savathun does too, to this random thrall in the Ascendant realm who doesn't understand any of the witch's ramblings, and it was kind of left a mystery until we started to discover some of these during the Dreaming City events. Some of the encrypted messages we were finding. Our first actual mention of her in the storyline events comes during the events on Titan during Savathun's song, of course, when Taiko 3 and the other 8 freaking Guardians that were on this mission.
9-person raid failed.
Yes. 9-person raid failed a Vanguard strike. Let that sink in for just a moment. Of course, the Hive are conducting a ritual with a shrieker called Savathun's song. They're trying to summon something to Titan, and it's still unknown at that point what it is. Savathun eventually, 2-3 years after the Taken War, has pretty much assumed control of the Taken at this stage. People are trying to figure out, why are they so coordinated? Like at the Lake of Shadows, they're coordinated. They're coordinated in the attack on the Dreaming City. And it's discovered that Savathun is controlling them at this point. It is theorized now that through Quiria, she has discovered the power to take. That somehow she has been able to do that. And we're not quite sure how.
Nokris even refers to her as the Taken Queen in that story right before.
We're gonna get to Nokris here in just a second. Part of that is Nokris is sucking up to her. He needs her to save him, essentially, because we somehow didn't kill him when we just obliterated his body. This is kind of why, I'm almost going to dub this Savathun Part 1, because we're going to have to do a Part 2 at some point in the next year. There's going to be a lot more that we're going to learn leading up to the Witch Queen, and presumably us finally taking her down. She was behind the events on the moon. She directed the Hidden Swarm to build the Scarlet Keep, to distract us from the Pyramid's power, to keep us from finding it. Yet we still found it. We still entered the Pyramid. She hates this. She hates it so much that we're doing this. She's doing this, but she also wanted it built so that, because she knew the Guardian would go there, the young wolf would go there and would slay the last of Crota's brood. Crota's daughters, of course, established this. Hashladun, we kill Hashladun, we kill the final Death Singers. Oryx's line, for all intents and purposes, is extinct. It's gone. All you got left is Savathun, and, well, for 3 weeks, you get to Lankaru, and then we kill her, and then she comes back to life. Of course, we know that Nokris joins forces with her. Events of Warmind offers teacher the necromancy, and this and that, and they kind of decide to come together and do this, because Nokris has been abandoned by Zol. Zol has seen our power and has gone, nope, I'm serving them. They are the more powerful being.
I'm going to be a badass sniper rifle piece.
Yeah, I'm going to live within this gun. I'm going to speak to them through the weapon, much like Oryx also did, and in a sense gain immortality this way and still be able to take vengeance on those. I'm going to serve the most powerful being in the universe, essentially, which multiple gods have now determined to be our guardian. So during all this, of course, as we covered during Riven, you're kind of seeing everything that we talked about for the last several weeks come into play here. This is kind of the culmination of it. Savathun's had a hand in all of those events. The events of Forsaken largely are set in motion by her. She gains access to the Dreaming City, and Riven, who was taken by Oryx, she convinces Riven to be on her side. The titular last wish is referring to Savathun. When Riven dies, Riven grants one final wish, and that's for the curse of the Dreaming City to happen. And then when we kill Dulankaru, we fire up the murder battery, essentially. So we are now in an impossible situation. Do we keep fighting in this loop, or do we allow the loop to break and let Dulankaru break through to the distributary, which is her and Savathun's ultimate goal? To basically wipe out the awoken species.
And somehow resetting the loop is feeding power to Savathun. So either way,
that's part of the power that we alluded to earlier with Quiria, is she teaches her how they run this in simulations, and Quiria, it's thought, is the one powering this whole loop. that she is also secretly helping direct the events. I thought we were going to take her out in Last Swish once I saw it was taken enemies, and we didn't. So presumably she will be taken out in either a strike or in the actual Savathun raid encounter. It's ironic that Xivu Arath is really the god of war, but the high god of war, but Savathun in so many ways is so much more brutal and unrelenting than Xivu Arath is. What little we know of Xivu.
Yeah.
She takes over Elusina, the corrupted throne world of Marasav. Of course, that's where Dulankari was taken up. The Shattered Throne. That's the Shattered Throne. Is Elusina, and so when that's all happening, like Savathun's just kind of sitting back. She's kind of kicking back and like, oh yeah, this is great. She concocts a plan to take down Callus. You know, she's coming at us from all angles, trying to wipe out our allies in the Awoken, trying to wipe out Callus, who's trying to curry our favor. Like we've now gone to we conquered the Leviathan. We've saved him from 2 threats now on board. He trusts us implicitly, and that's why when the Crown of Sorrow happens, her intent is for him to wear it because he is so, you know, regal and gluttonous that he can't resist wearing it. He sees through it and puts it on one of his bathers, Galron, who of course becomes corrupted, and the events of the Crown of Sorrow happen, and he calls upon us to come wipe him out. She takes over a lot of his loyalists. She leaves there's messages left in the Chronicon to us. Yep. And you know, ever since then, so really for the last year, she's been going through this. Like she's kind of seen the nightmares happen. She's seen the stuff happen on Io, of course, in the within the Pyramidion. She's behind all of that. That's, of course, as we're referring to, Eris and Zavala kind of duke it out there at the end, dialogue-wise. Like she's like, no, well, you have to start planning now. She's not going to just attack the city. She's going to come at us with everything she's got on all fronts. Like this is not good. This is not good at all. These blights are exactly like that. This is bad. This is really, 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 really bad. And
how bad is it?
It's really bad. It's really bad, Corey. And of course, that brings us to this season, which, whenever you do the Contact public event, you are trying to take out Savathun's forces. She's sending scouts because she basically wants to know why on earth have we been chosen by the pyramids to receive their messages.
Their marionettes.
Yeah. Her marionettes are running around. Her little puppets. She's very upset that we are, and we know that Nokris is leading the Taken on Io right now. For all intents and purposes, he's the one leading them on the Cradle. You can hear him speaking in when you enter the Ascendant Realm to take down the Shrieker each week. She is trying to go ahead.
I was about to say, just we're going to Savathun's throne world every week, which is just lore-wise so cool to me, even if it gets repetitive after the 3rd or 4th time you go there.
It's absolutely repetitive, don't get me wrong. What is it with the hive and swinging chandeliers in Throne Worlds? That's what I want to know. Chandeliers that I have to jump across too. I'm just kind of over it.
Why are they so big?
Man, there's just...
Do they live in there?
Weird.
Like
she...
Is that why they store all the exploding Thorol so they can light their hives until, like, you know, they're ready to come blow up in your face?
So they can make me do the same jumping area like 3 different times because they keep blowing up on me? Yes.
Yeah.
I think before we move on from Nokris, I just wanted to touch on one little thing, if I may.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating to me, out of all of this that we've learned this season, that Savathun is more or less abandoning the sword logic. Was my read on it. You know, her and Nokris talked about the God, I wish I had it pulled up in front of me so I could quote it directly, but she kind of refers to Oryx being short-sighted for following the sword logic so closely, you know.
So I have one of the quotes pulled up here in front of me. And it's Nokris bargaining with Savathun. The queen is clever. You did not share my father's single-minded ambition, nor my brother's taste for glory. Savathun goes, you wish to serve me. And Nokris says, yes. My life is spent servitude to those who cast me away. Our blood is all that remains of the old pact. And then Savathun makes the bargain. Then let us make use of each other. She plans to use his necromancy in combination with the murder battery, because I have no better terminology here, to power herself instead of the sword logic, instead of conquest through just defeating the cast in front of you. Every time that something is defeated, she is fed. Yeah. That is ultimately her goal. She seeks to become more powerful than Oryx, and I would say at this point probably has surpassed Oryx's powers. She has watched us with curiosity for years now, and she is now she's scared enough of us if we get the powers of the darkness that she is directly telling Nokris to stop and interfere with our communication, hence the interference missions. This particular week, we're going to cover all of these once they've all technically been unlocked. I know they're all in Ishtar Collective, but I don't like to cover things before they're actually in the game. Yeah. When Eris gives us the lore piece, I haven't actually read the lore from last week yet. She says, curious, this message is not intended for us. It is a rebuke. And it's inferred that the rebuke is directed at Savathun, because she's trying to spy on us. She's trying to prevent us from communicating with the darkness. And the darkness is basically giving her the finger right now. Like, we don't want you. We want the Guardian. We want him. We want these guys. We want to prove that, that this is the ultimate power in the universe. Not the light, but, hey, man, come to a space Dorito and get lit up. We don't really, to kind of conclude this lore corner, we don't really know what her end goal is. We assume this is all we're really going to get of her this season. It's just the contact events, the interference missions. I do think something cool will probably happen on week 15. So in 2 weeks, when we do the final interference mission, that is the first time you can actually get the 15th lore piece. I think there's something cool that's going to happen. The tree has gradually been changing. Yeah, I think it'll be part of the evacuation quest, personally. I think that's what will finally trigger maybe some of those planets going away or something new happening on the planets. And we've all suspected Traveler's Judgment, Traveler's Chosen is tied to the second part of the Exodus quest line. I expect Savathun to probably take a back seat in the initial fall expansion. Maybe she'll be front and center or one of her cronies will be front and center for the dungeon that will inevitably come this year. I would suspect it, since 2 of the 3 dungeons are Taken themed. I would definitely expect it. I don't know, because there's so many different routes you can go with this, and obviously Bungie wants to keep that mystery. I do think it's going to be the core focus of our seasonal storyline going forward. Like this year, we had a storyline that all tied together, starting with the Vex Offensive, starting with the first completion of the Garden of Salvation, kicked in motion the entire storyline we've been on this year. It led to us contact when we killed the Undying Mind. We meet with Osiris for the first time, really the first time in the flesh.
We changed the Infinite Forest with that act.
Yeah. We changed it, and suddenly he couldn't see that. The Vex couldn't comprehend a future where that happened. So he had never seen this future. This is a new future. Introduces us to the Sundial. We're able to save Saint 14. We walk the corridors. We see our future grave. We come out of that, and it's Osiris confronting Rasputin. We have to align with Rasputin to save the city ultimately, to gain the trust and get him and Zavala to get along. Anna comes back into the fold. Osiris and Anna see something horrifying in deep space that just scars both of them. We still don't know where Osiris quite is right now. We know his encounter with the darkness was far worse than Anna's. Yeah. And of course that leads into the season of arrivals. Canonically, we blow up the Almighty, and a couple days later, Anna has saved one of those bursts that we had built for Rasputin, one of those groups of satellites, and goes to fire it at the pyramid ship over Iho, and Rasputin is shut down. Rasputin's basically knocked out of commission by the pyramids. So we don't really know what role Savathun has in all of this. And I'm very curious to see. Yeah.
Not to interrupt, but not for nothing, we have found out that she's spying on / possibly interfering with Zavala right there on the tower. You know?
Yeah, and we're going to get to... I was kind of saving that one. We're going to do a Zavala-centric lore corner here in a few weeks. Once we get Travelers Chosen, we're going to start addressing Zavala a little bit.
Yeah.
There's been enough development with him since Forsaken that I think it warrants us discussing him, particularly the lore and the actions we've seen him take in both Season of the Worthy and Season of Arrivals now. He's a different character than he was during Forsaken, or even during the Red War. This is a guy who he saw the city nearly get wiped out. We all nearly died because we lost our powers. One of his best friends murdered, and we directly disobeyed him with Ikora's help to go and avenge his death. Which Zavala was shocked. Like he's like, I don't know what ramifications we'll face, and I'm sure there is still a reckoning coming for us doing that.
Yeah.
At some point, something is going to happen. Bungie doesn't like to leave threads like that just hanging out when a prominent character gives dialogue like that. But the Ahamkara skull that is above Shax's head, it is referenced. Eris basically says Savathun is awakening relics of the dark. Ancient relics and things that have not had life in them are suddenly stirring back to life. And she basically tells the Drifter, in dialogue, tells the Drifter, you tell that fool to get rid of that skull immediately. Like, that needs to be out of the tower. It needs to be gone. And he says, well, what do you think I've been doing? I've tried. He doesn't listen to me.
They seem to forget that all three classes have an exotic armor made out of Ahamkara bone. So that might also be troubling.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think there's at its core, I think there's a lot of things you can do, and they're setting up little nuggets. And Bungie likes to do this. They like to set up little nuggets of things and come back to them years down the line. Like I said, this is a storyline. Like, even if we take out Savathun, we very well may still have Xivu Arath. I really hope we don't. I hope we take them both out at the same time, because I'm getting tired of Hive and Taken being the end game. But they are the races that are closest to the actual embodiment of the darkness. As we went over last week, when they dive into Fundament's core and the Leviathan warns them to turn back. The Leviathan being a being of light at that point, a being of the Traveler, warns them, go back. All you will find is darkness if you go any further. And Savathun she wants that. Like she sees it as more powerful than light. She wants to seize it. And I'm curious to see what they do with the stasis powers. We already know that they're going to give them to various enemy factions. Mm-hmm. Kind of curious to see if the darkness finally grants it to her, or if she tries to take it by force like Aramis come next fall, maybe next summer. We'll see what'll happen. But until then, of course, this has been Lore Corner and speculation about Savathun. And a little bit of an unconventional one this week. We don't have a whole lot of deep lore to go into. We did most of that last week. For next week, though, if you're listening to this, if you have any questions about the Osnium Court, about Savathun, about Oryx, Xivu Arath, Nokris, Zol, all those fun guys that we've talked about, get those questions in. We kind of want to do a little bit of a Q&A, a little bit of a wrap-up on all these guys, any little tidbits we've missed, before we dive into our Denizens of the Tower over the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Bada bing, bada boom.
You can email us or tweet us, Tower Casuals, at Tower Casuals, at towercasuals@gmail.com, all those places.
That's right.
Do it.
I completely
probably a MySpace page, just Tower Casuals at MySpace.
Yeah. Visit our...
I mean, we're gonna open up the Zanga next week.
Use your AOL keywords. Get those discs ready.
Man,
you
Tower Casuals Live Journal coming at you hot.
You gotta beat the timer on that 48-hour trial. Don't waste those minutes.
48-hour trial. America Online. But
tell your parents you're using the phone line.
Mom, it's my turn to use the internet.
Oh man, what a great episode. But where'd everybody go? Oh no.
Oh
no.
Oh no, what?
Oh, there we go. Nothing. I was moving some windows around so I could like wrap up the show, and Skype went away and you guys disappeared for a minute. It's okay. We're good to go.
Savathun!
I know. Just playing tricks on my monitors, you know.
The Witch Queen has infiltrated the monitor.
Oh, what's this weird skull hanging above my lamp?